to remove an appointed official. That's the distinction. There's from a legal perspective, it's easier to get rid of someone if they're in fact an employee as opposed to an appointed official. That's why the employment agreement I did drew the distinction between the appointed clerk treasurer's duties as an appointed official versus the administrator's functions as an employee. Okay, so there are legal advantages to having the positions separate. Okay, so I guess you have to decide what do you want to see accomplished. Looking at it from a functional perspective as opposed to a label perspective. Okay, if you want certain tasks to be performed, okay, and everybody agrees on the tasks that need to be performed, then in my opinion, you're better off to put them into a situation where you have duties as the appointed official and then separate duties as an employee, okay, which is what we tried to do with the employment agreement, okay? But again, it's basically, I can see you accomplishing the same things in terms of what tasks you want to see accomplished. That help?
No, I'm still confused because I don't understand it's what added duties on the clerk treasurer that are done
I
by.
can't get specific because I've never been asked to analyze all of the statutory
Well,
duties
like-
of the treasurer.
Is updating a document, is that a clerical duty or is that a village admin duty?
I have to look at the duties of the clerk. I can't answer these specific
Right.
questions. If you want me to come in and talk to a committee, then I need to analyze the statutory duties of the clerk
So
treasurer,
who's supposed to
okay?
be doing what? As
Yeah.
is, okay.
Okay?
Right.
And
Well,
then I
think
can
that's
say,
what we
here are
need
the
to do.
statutory duties of the clerk treasurer, and if you want to assign other tasks that are above and beyond that, then they're not duties of the clerk treasurer, okay? They're duties of some clerical person, okay? I can't see here tonight, give you the
Right.
breakdown.
Right.
And that's basically what we have already done. It went through that process already and said that we wanted the administrator to do that.
But the job description that was created went
What is
beyond
wrong,
that.
so we need to correct that.
That's all he's saying, it's potato, potato.
Right, so
No, you still got a full-time job. There's somebody doing all the administrative stuff, and the big decision-making is still with the president or whatever.
Absolutely.
Right, the only thing you're doing right now is bringing up the way it was done, which is like, yeah, there's some mistakes made with it, legally. So that's all everybody's trying to do is clean up whatever. So why are you talking about this? Yeah.
Can I say something, just maybe shed a little light on something there, because Brian and I talked about it. I think we'll all agree, what you've all said is true. The reason we split the job was on Brian's advice and ours after looking at the clerk treasurer duties and the duties for the administrator. And to be honest, we all admitted this was a new position. What if it didn't work? What if it just didn't fit the village? We needed a way to get out of that. So we split the position. So if that job, we even went through a 6-month trial period for that new administrative position on Brian's advice. So if it didn't work, we had a way to move on. It's what you're doing now is working. If the job description's wrong, I'll apologize. I was probably involved in that and we made mistakes, okay? You move on. What you have is working. It's working great. The duties are separate. I believe there is a need to separate them. And that's all I can say. So that's the reason that was done, was absolutely to separate the jobs, just for the reason Brian said. Because when you appoint somebody as an official, under state statute, there are, if you look in the General Law Village Act, under state statutes, there are assigned duties to a treasurer, assigned duties to a clerk. I don't know what the legal parameters, if you try to assign that clerk more duties outside of that statute and say they're still an appointed official. Brian can tell you that. I'm just saying, I don't understand why you're going on this whole road when you're all saying the same thing, that the job description's wrong. Have Brian rewrite the job description, then kumbaya, go home.
And I agree with that to the extent of what you just said, but I disagree with creating a village administrator at this stage of our development. I just don't think we're big enough to have that person there. That's all.
can we eliminate that title and job?
That to me is the answer.
I
at
think
this
it
stage
should be
in-
eliminated, period, and gone back to the president with his authority to do what is right.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
If, let's assume that, this is maybe directed to Larry, okay? If you want to have tasks performed by an individual in the office, okay? And you agree that the task you want to have performed is outside of the scope of the statutory duties of the clerk treasurer, okay? Would you have any objection to having an employee do those tasks, okay? And call that employee an administrative assistant,
That might be a solution.
okay?
So she would be clerk, treasurer, administrative assistant?
Okay, well,
But two different people.
Well, you can be two different people, or you can have one person, that's up to the council.
That's,
so.
But again, so if you don't like the tasks being performed by the administrative assistant, okay? Then it's an employment at will situation, okay, that you can then terminate that position or that person from that position. You don't have to worry about jumping through the hoops of getting rid of an appointed official. They don't want to go through that process again, okay?
None of it's good.
And so that might be a solution where you're toning down the title, okay? You're not calling it a manager, you're not calling it a village administrator. But what you're really talking about is secretarial work,
Right,
okay?
that's what it is, yeah.
Okay? And to the extent you have a secretarial work, you're going to be assisting the village president in his duties. You're going to be assisting the various committees in their functions, okay? You're going to be writing the letters. If you need to do a letter to the state on a particular topic, somebody's got to type it.
what if we had a deputy clerk treasurer?
That's a possibility. The statutes allow for deputy clerks.
And those
So it's
duties,
the
and those
deputy clerk
duties
have-
that, I guess, first of all, I would like to see the tasks that we would like her to do over and above what's been assigned already, if that could fit within the clerk treasurer responsibilities.
Right.
And then if they can, then we would be looking at creating a second position that would take care of the responsibilities that she can't do as clerk treasurer.
What responsibilities can she do? Let me ask her.
I don't
That's what
know.
we gotta find out.
I get the feeling you keep going back to you don't want one person to do both jobs, you wanna separate this. And you're taking something away from somebody.
No, that's not what he's saying.
Is that, am
That's
I
not what he
not
said.
reading that right?
No.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry, what do you,
It's still a 40-hour week job.
Yeah, I mean, you're looking at it from a business standpoint, that is one person that has a lot of responsibility.
absolutely.
What if she gets sick or a kid gets sick and she has to be off for 10 days? Who's here to run the village office then without like an assistant or something? Like, you know, back in the day,
The
we
village
used to
president.
call
We
it
used to have a
Kelly
deputy.
girls. You know, Kelly girls would help with filing or something if you got in a rush. But I don't think Larry's trying to eliminate her totally or the village, but just to have a backup, even in my business, you know, I mean, I'm going through an issue that I'll be gone for 3 days at a time and, you know, I'm just closed down because I'm the boss and can do that. But when you have someone in charge and if something happened catastrophic, there's no backup plan. I mean, I'm not hearing any plan B out of all this, regardless of title. And it's not an attack on Rachel, I know. It's hard to say anything without
never been an
it
attack
sound
on
like it's a personal.
Mr. President?
Yes.
It seems to me that in order to move this process forward, is I have obviously the old job description that was done. And I think Rachel gave a list of various tasks that you're doing now,
Here, you
correct?
have this one, I've got it right here.
Just drop it. I don't know. There you go, see, now I get to it. When I was in the prosecutor's office, I have to laugh because the secretaries would always drop the files at my feet, okay? So when Charlie Coop took over, I was afraid that the secretaries would just drop it at his feet, but then apparently they didn't do that. And so let me look at the tasks that are in the job description that was created, the new task list that I have now, and make a list, okay? Here are the statutory duties, okay? Here are the tasks that have been included in the job description and the list of tasks, and see if I can divide those up into what would be the job descriptions for the clerk treasurer, and what would be the tasks that would be assigned to some employee. I'm not gonna put a label on it.
But I'd like you to keep in mind too that that's not all inclusive. I just asked Rachel to make this up 2 days ago or 3 days ago, so this came very quickly from her. There's probably a lot more that happens that we're not thinking.
Well, she can think about it over the next few days and just give it to me, that's not a problem.
Okay.
But that'll give you then a clear division of authority.
Everybody's talking about the same thing, it's just different ways.
So everybody's agreeing with the plan, sort of? Okay, we move on to the DDA then?
You have to have that.
So we're
as
gonna,
a
Brian's gonna
motion.
make a list of the two different things and we'll review it in a month at the next meeting?
Next month, yeah.
Yeah, next
We have
meeting's
to
fine.
eliminate the,
Or does the contract ends?
We're dealing with the new fiscal year, is what I'm trying to get to.
but we have to eliminate the title first.
Well, not
I'm not worried about that
No, we
tonight.
can still eliminate it.
but I'm not worried about that tonight. I think we need
All
more
right.
information.
Okay,
When is your next meeting?
the 11th, February,
11th February.
February 11th?
yes.
Yes, that's right. That's in here somewhere. February 11th. Okay, DDA board, I'll back up a little bit. There again, I was trying to look for a solution to bring some different interests together in hopes that from that move it would help heal some of the division, I guess, that the community has been experiencing. It's the only way I can say it. So Brian said the planning commission can function as a DDA board. I assume if that's the case, then the development plan and TIF plan that has been approved would still be able to be administered by the.
It's important to understand, and I heard comments already tonight that there was an attempt to dissolve or do away with the DDA. That's not true, okay? The DDA is an entity, a legal entity created by the council by ordinance. All that's being proposed is to take advantage of provision in the DDA Act that allows the planning commission to in fact function as your DDA board, okay? So your DDA is going to be the same, it's going to be the same legal entity that's out there, okay? You're going to have another body of individuals, okay, that will then govern the DDA and setting its policies and things. The statute says that if you're a municipality with less than 5,000 in population, they recognize that it's often difficult to get people to serve on various boards, okay? And so they're allowing for that planning commission then to have a dual function. It would do the regular planning commission functions typically under your zoning ordinance, and then would also have the same administrative duties to help guide the Downtown Development Authority as a legal entity.
It can be the same people too.
Yeah, individual, yeah.
You can have more on the planning commission, I understand, is
You have right now, your ordinance is for 5, you can go 5, 7, or 9. If you wanted to increase the size of your planning commission, you could always do that. You can, right now, the Planning Enabling Act allows for 2 members of the planning commission that are not required to be qualified electors of the village, okay? Your ordinance doesn't do that, doesn't implement that authority. So you have a couple of choices. You can keep your 5-member planning commission. You can then increase that to 7, or you can increase that to 9. You can then implement the authority that 2 of the members can be non-electors of the village if you wanted to bring someone in from outside. So there are lots of options here. You're not necessarily stuck with your 5-member planning commission. You can always increase it because you have, if you want a broader representation of the community.
Anybody Anybody have any
I,
comments?
you know, I was actually surprised to see this on the agenda, only because this has actually been kicked around quite a bit for over the last year of doing this exact same thing. The previous president, myself, Rob Tyler's been involved a little bit in just talks and discussions of different things of doing this. And initially, the reason we never actually proposed it was the DDA was just getting started. They were getting their feet wet. We wanted to see if they were actually gonna take off and go. We already knew that they could be put together and that they could add. The problem that we've come up with though and seen recently, well also we waited for this new council to take off on, is so far we haven't had any problems getting people to volunteer for a DDA. They're jumping on that, but nobody wants to come forward for a planning commission. Nobody wants to, and so what I would like to see, and one of the things that, I've done the research, I've got the Planning Enabling Act, I've read it, the DDA Act, it allows them to be put together. You know, I have questions on the Planning Enabling Act says that you can have 5, 7 or 9 members, only one of which can be an elected position. Now, when that becomes a DDA, how does that work? Yeah, actually, I believe it says the percentage of your.
The DDA, because the DDA Act authorizes the planning commission to in fact function.
So then you throw your DDA laws out and it goes back to the
Planning
planning laws.
commission laws would apply for the membership of the planning
Okay.
commission.
You can also look at the, you know, one that we pulled up here with the village of Dryden. And they had done this once already themselves. They've kind of done it now. So, I mean, this is, I think it's a great idea. I kind of am behind doing this. I'd like a little more research though. I mean, I'd like to get into this, maybe talk with Neela, Sarah Christensen, and see, is there pros to doing it? Is there cons? Is there a benefit to it besides making one council, or one group, I guess? I mean, I don't know what that is myself.
Does you get more people involved maybe by doing it?
Great, I mean, but, I don't know, and I'd like to know that, you know, on the legal aspects of it, Brian knows we can do it, that's great. No, like Sarah Christian working with Neela and all, she's worked with all these communities that have done this before or have proposed this. Wouldn't it be good to get some input from them and see what they think, you know, is there a pro to doing it? Is it a bad? They might look at you and say, man, I've seen other places do it and it didn't work for them, it hurt them, you know, and going forward, how would we recommend doing a board? I mean, I'd love to see the people that are already doing it, and, you know, and I think there's a lot of information from that, and I also would hate to see us tell the business owners and all who have volunteered their time right now that you're not doing a good job, let's do
I'm not
something
saying
different.
they're not doing a good job.
I'd like to see some more research behind it, I guess, myself, to know.
That's fine.
I think it's a great thing, I really do. and
Could I just make a comment since we talked about it? I would just encourage the council to move fast. The reason being because we learned that as you develop a master plan, if your master plan doesn't have teeth, which is a zoning act, and which is a planning commission, people don't really recognize the master plan or the recreation plan when you go apply for grants. So as you're going to apply for grants, I think it's important to have everybody in place. It's always been, we know it as a council, important to have a planning commission. We couldn't find people. I think it's real important you have that planning commission. I agree with Larry and Joe. It's a great idea to have the same group of people. They're all going to be working towards the same task. However you comprise that board is a whole other discussion. But I would just encourage you to go fast, because if you look for like grants on the basketball courts and the tennis courts, a planning commission is a very important thing to have in place that they see active.
Chris wants to speak.
Yeah, Chris.
Yeah, I'm on the board of the DDA, and I can honestly say that the DDA, we've even talked about internally about reducing the size because of the turnover we've had recently. We lost somebody pretty important every month, it seems like. All right, we lost Patton, we lost Bachman, we lost Kelly, we lost Melissa. The thing is, and a lot of the committees didn't meet because people didn't have time, or people within the group had all the wonderful intentions of being there for every meeting, and so we couldn't give committee meetings. A lot of times, you know, even as a committee chairman, Corey tries really hard, sometimes personal stuff as far as his own business, everything else gets in the way, and then we don't get things the way we were supposed to at a certain time. And now that maybe it's taken a little bit longer, and I think that the solution, and 95% of the work has all been done now. okay? As far as a lot of the nuts and bolts of it, per se, okay? Now we've got kind of a plan, so I don't see any problem with 3 or 4 of us going over, all right? And by the confrontations we did have with other groups, like the Chamber of Commerce, that we allow that, you know, say, hey, why don't you bring in one person? Melissa was kind of their spokesman, but the point is we have to calm that down and become part together again. And the election didn't help a whole lot either, of a lot of confrontations. And a lot of people who were really good friends because of the social network and the BS that was going along with it destroyed some relationships or definitely hurt them. So I think it's a time for healing, and I think that would be the perfect time, and the solution sounded good. So I'm for it.
Again, I'm all for it right now, I support it a
May
lot.
May I
you know.
comment? A question.
Let's do it.
Does the planning commission meet as a DDA and then a planning commission? Do they have a meeting and adjourn, and have a meeting and adjourn?
No, they can all
They
have all of,
have all at once.
all their items can be in the same meeting, statute
Okay.
provides for that.
And there's, from the DDA members I've spoke with about it, everybody seems to at least be open to the idea of looking into it and seeing what the pros and cons are. And I personally would like to look at it. If something like that was to happen, I think, it would be nice to have everybody from the DDA be invited over to serve on that committee, since we've been doing this right along. We've met 16 to 18 times, maybe more. We've done a lot the first year, so there's people that have put a lot of hard work into it that I would like, it would be nice to see them in that position still.
If you do have members, if you reconstitute your planning commission, increase the size or whatever you're gonna do, and you have DDA, people that are currently on the traditional DDA board, and if they go over on and get appointed to the planning commission, it is extremely important that these individuals get trained, okay, as to what their functions are as a planning commissioner, because their mindset right now is downtown is DDA, okay? And you've got to understand that there are certain legal requirements that must be followed when you're dealing with zoning decisions, special use permits and things like that, that are important, that they understand what that role is. So to the extent you're going to do that, I strongly urge you to have them come over and do some training.
Is that free of charge?
Of course not.
You gotta try to get something out here.
I have a grandbaby to buy for.
Sam?
Could I be dismissed?
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Good night, Sam.
You gonna plow my way home now?
No,
Should have asked an hour ago.
Try to go to bed before you have stuff.
that's it. See ya.
Larry, are you looking for a vote on this?
I'm not looking for a vote, no.
Oh, okay.
I don't think we need to vote, I do think we need to act.
You have, in order to change that, you have to amend the DDA statute, okay, which is part of your chapter 16 of your code. And I prepared that amendment that can be done, it doesn't have to be done tonight. But in order to make the change, to go from what I call a traditional DDA board to the planning commission serving as that, there has to be, that amendment has to be adopted and published. If you decide you want to reconstitute your planning commission with your options to have 2 members that are non-electors, or if you want to increase the size of your planning commission, it's my recommendation that I be authorized to prepare that ordinance as well, and that both of those ordinances be adopted at the same time.
Is there any relationship between us and the DDA Planning Commission as opposed to the way it's set up right now?
You're
That
in charge of
doesn't change.
appointments, you're in charge of appointing those members, yeah.
That's,
So if we were to move forward, do you have any people that you are currently looking at? I mean, or would you?
I'm looking at the DDA board, and we're down to 1 planning commission member right now.
Right.
So,
Well,
So I mean, when you do that, I mean, would
I
you?
know that there are
extend that?
planning commission interest letters coming in. I've talked to some folks who said they're sending letters. So because there are empty seats, I've been asking the Lord and everyone. So there are people that are going to submit.
And I had one ask me this last year.
I tried.
That's the best solution.
That's
I
right.
mean, I guess I would just say I'd like to see, again, agree with Corey that I'd like to see that invitation to the existing DDA members. Now, I mean, would be mine, they worked hard on it, so.
And then those DDA members need to think, like Brian has said, though, it's not just DDA stuff now, it's planning commission stuff now, so they may not want it.
Yep, it's land, it's all land.
It's all different, it's not just one and two now.
And I think it has an effect on how we budget, so that's one of the reasons I think we have.
Are we sure that the residency requirement does not apply? Because a majority of the business owners downtown are not residents of Central Lake.
Understand that the DDA statute gives you two options for
Two
a
people
board.
that don't
You
have
can
to
be a
work.
traditional board where you've got all the residency requirements and the one person, if you have a population of 100 people in your DDA district, that's out the window because you're opting for the planning commission.
So it's the downside to it is the majority of the business owners may not be able to join because they don't fall within the residency requirements of the planning commission
The
clause.
planning commission allows for two
Outside, so
members
it's-
outside the village electorate.
So there's very few, I mean, I will submit there's probably only about 5 of us that have residency requirement.
All I can tell you is that's what the statute allows.
But that,
The planning commission, though, is the law changed that they don't have to be members of the village?
Only if your ordinance is amended, you can have two members of your planning
That,
commission
okay.
that do not have to be elected.
So at the planning commission meeting next week, we could say we want to add 2 more people. Yeah, right. Right, well, I didn't know big things were running, so.
That has to be done by ordinance of the council, not the planning.
Okay.
Planning commission doesn't make that decision.
Just make sure whoever you're asking to join the planning commission, they're resident.
Well, I don't know, there's some good people that aren't resident, that don't live in the village that I'd love to see on the planning commission.
so we can agree to just postpone anything on this until next month and we'll work.
Working on businesses in town.
I mean, I'd like to talk with the DDA, some of the members and see who is a resident that would like to and who isn't. I think that would be great.
Actually, you have to amend the planning ordinance
If we do.
to allow two members to be outside the village.
We don't have that now. Okay.
Statute allows for it.
But we don't have it in our ordinance.
That's what I'm saying.
Alternatively, short of taking the DDA and putting them into the planning commission, if the issue is that we're short of planning commission people and there's different meeting nights, why don't we ask some of the members of the DDA if they'd like to serve on the planning commission, have the meeting at 45 minutes to an hour before the DDA meeting at the same place, do both, fill the requirements of the planning commission, and fill the requirements of the DDA. And that way, we're not stuck with the residency requirement for all the business owners that are downtown. That's just alternatively something that should be looked at.
Well, Michelle she was one of the few downtown residents that didn't live in the area, so I don't know that that's
Tom
a
Kenyon,
huge.
Michelle, Andy Marcy Parker, Kelly Young.
They're
I don't
not
know if
on
Brian
the
Kenyon
DDA,
decided-
they're not on the DDA, they're not going to be on the DDA.
So you don't know
So
what's
we're
gonna
running
happen
out
in
of
the future
people
on the
that can
DDA.
even be on the
Tom
DDA.
Kenyon live in the
How
village?
do you want?
He just moved.
No, he just, okay, I didn't know.
And you're not.
Well, and we're
future-
assuming that
future
they wanna
businesses
be
and future
planning
use.
commissioners too. That's you, I think you have to address that with the DDA if they want to be
Well,
planning
that's just
commissioners.
it. Well, that's just it.
Right.
There's more work that has to be done, but I think
A lot.
so. I brought it up at this stage because I'd like to, the budget for it, however way we go. So we have until March 1st to approve the budget.
Okay.
And so,
Ryan, would you be doing the training for a new planning commission board? Okay.
Does that master plan have to be updated?
It was just done.
How many?
Master plan was just
Master
done,
plan
one
was
year,
just done.
take over. Master plan and
Or
work
training
training.
for
I'd
that.
like to say so too, but I'd like to know that.
1 hour?
That's generally.
Okay.
It may be an hour and a half.
Okay, so if we were to say 2 hours, we think we're really well. Okay.
And I heard cruising was on the planning commission.
That's everybody at once, right?
Okay, that would be great, council members. That way you understand why planning commissions are required to make some decisions that you may find politically distasteful, but they're required to do that.
I was a black person when I first started career.
That's a good idea.
It's a good education experience.
Oh, yes, oh, yes.
Okay,
I think.
Brian is on the clock,
Raised the rate.
so.
See you, hey, good night.
Brian, have a good evening, guys.
So where are we leaving off with this?
Thanks for coming, thanks for leaving.
What are we doing?
The village administrator is, those tasks he's gonna review.
Right.
Okay. The DDA board, I think we have
I
to
have to be sign porch.
see how many we can get
And we'll
interested
have happy hour price.
from
I'll talk to
both
you.
sides.
I'll talk to you.
Corey, could you even get like letters of interest?
Melissa has some good ones.
Well, didn't you
Yep,
say-
there's some coming in, yep, some coming in.
So if we table
So
it
at the
till-
next meeting, that's when we'll make the decision as to,
I would think so.
okay.
Table it
So
till
let me
then.
know in advance, so I can have the appropriate amendment to your planning commission ordinance.
Right.
Where you can actually take action to adopt.
So you're gonna do that, Joe, you're gonna find out about,
What are you throwing me under the bus for now?
oh, you're gonna do all this stipulation between the DDA and the planning commission, and how many of the DDA board?
No.
Why would Joe do it?
That's his personnel.
Melissa's going to work on it.
They're not personnel.
That's not personnel, that's like staff.
Yeah. Ain't nothing.
No, I think if everybody wants to work together, I think it's a great thing, actually. I'd just like to talk to most of them to get input from them, and, you know, and like I said, Sarah Christensen.
Well, they definitely need an education on what the planning commission person does.
I guess my biggest concern is Corey threw 5 big names right there that don't live in the village. Now, if you only have 2, how can you move 3 just because that's, I mean, there's a lot of influence.
Then that's gonna be up to these 7 people here to figure out who to appoint. Of the we could end up with a list of 10 people. Well, how do we know? You know, that'd be great.
There's also options to look at this, you know, and I throw this out, in some of the research we've done, we found that while they had a 5-person board, one they did, or a 7-person board, they had subcommittees. That them people were still involved in working
But
for the better good.
not
They just
obligated to
weren't-
be a planning
Yeah.
commissioner.
They were, but they were still working with it and giving their time. So, I mean, there's options out there that I think are good to look at. But I agree with you. There's a lot of support from our base.
Planning commission, we have people.
Yeah, I agree with 100% with that.
You betcha.
We gotta be really careful.
That's why I'd like to get a little more to it.
Oh, no, that's good. This one, no, that's good. Don't forget that.
It's cold out there, Brian, come on.
Just like,
Well, the headlights go down there, Brian.
that's reasonable.
You got anything?
Yep, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Brian.
Thank you so much.
Okay, under new business, continue ed and training.
Yep, continuing education and training, again, just the other
What
day.
happened to C and D?
C is the one that I'm looking at right now. We're in.
C is
new
resolution.
business still. No, we're still in new business. C, the amendment that I made.
Oh.
C says resolution.
No, new business,
D
not
is-
action items.
Oh,
Go up.
11, sorry, you gotta remember.
Yep.
11.
Number 11C, continuing education and training. Rachel brought this, Rachel, did you put these in front of everybody? Okay, so everybody should have these two. Here, 2 months ago, I believe it was, Rachel went to some training, or even last month it was. When we paid for that training, you guys should all have a copy of this somewhere, we would have left on the desk. Is that right? It would have been on the very back of them. I can hand these down too. I thought. Yep, so that's there you go. But, well, Rachel attended this training. When we paid for that training, it actually paid for all the training that's in this packet. They sent Rachel this here the other day, and I had asked her to highlight the ones that she thought may be of value to us and that were local for us to look at and sending her to. One, I'm big into training and continuing education. Okay, this is only good for the next 3 months? Okay. She has highlighted the ones that she thought was fairly important for her, or that would be good, you guys don't have them?
We don't have them.
I'll let you look at this. I kind of started, one on the 29th is Microsoft Excel Beyond the Basics. There was one in Traverse City on February 24th for managers and supervisors. Again, not knowing the outcome of the administrator position, I'm not sure if we want to do that one, but it's already paid for, so I can't see it hurting that either way. Communication skills for women, I think is a great thing for somebody in the
Is it paid
office.
for one person or many people?
For one person, just for the clerk, because we've already paid for that training. But there's also one in Grand Rapids on the 20th, how to read and understand financial statements, and then another one, how to manage and organize accounts payable. So it would be my opinion that we keep educating and training up to date, if you guys want to look at that, to keep her there. Does the board have any problems with her going to them, some of
No
them,
way I could go to any.
the ones she's highlighted? That's why I bring it on to the board. So, I would say if they're local, they're already
They're
paid
talking
for,
about these for-
greater than.
Oh, just for her.
I don't know, that should be a motion or, if it does, I would make a motion that we allow Rachel to
Well,
go.
are these taking her to a level beyond where she's, things that you don't know, Rachel? I mean, you have degrees, you should have some of these trainings, I would think. Is this above what you, is this all stuff you don't know?
It's continuing education and training. I'm sure some of it is just refresher, and then some of it are beyond the basics of refresher. So,
I feel that the day workshops, drive there and get back. I'm not sure Grand Rapids or someplace else
Agreed.
would have to be reviewed a little closer. As far as the day job, going back.
So I just put it out there because I think it's good. I want to keep educating and training our staff, any of them and all of them, so.
Just remember that conversation, because when any of you ask for permission to go out of town to meet him, I'll remind you that you don't want to travel to do it at our expenses. To not have continuing education for an employee is ridiculous, not to endorse it.
Well,
Accept
some
it
of the
and
questions
encourage it.
that I have on the budget is that we currently spend more money to train one person than we spend to train all 7 of us.
No, remember too, this is already paid for.
That's beyond that. I'm saying that our budget, if you look at it, it's like if one person wants to go take a class, if Larry wanted to go take a continuing education class, he's only got a $100 budget. So, I guess, why are we spending, not that I don't want you trained, Rachel, that's not personal, my concern is, one person has a $1,000 budget, 7 people don't. And I would think there's some of us on this board that would like to go to a grant training or a planning commission training or something that develops us as well. If we sit here on this board for 4 years and don't learn anything more, then who stinks?
I'm
So-
not disagreeing with you, there's been training and we've done training.
And that's where, once we get to the budget, those things can be discussed.
Yeah, I mean, I think we should send her.
I think the day trips are great. Day trip,
And I don't think, I'm not saying no to something else. It's just that if you're gonna go to Grand Rapids, then I think we need to review that issue at that point in time. Go to Traverse City, yeah, I'm gonna be out of the office today because of the training in Traverse City.
Which would be
But
fine.
if I'm gonna be to Grand Rapids, down and back one day, maybe that's okay. Overnight, I don't know, that's all, I wanna leave that
I'm sorry, I
option
agree with that.
to be discussed. I'm not against continuing education.
So I guess on this, do we make a motion for her to go, or do we just say, go?
For the day.
For a day
For
trip.
the day one?
I think day trips are cool.
Day trips are okay.
Yeah.
You've already been,
We,
and we're still in this fiscal year, so.
Right.
it's-
now there is one, I believe.
Oh, I'm sorry, sir.
Yep, there was one here, I believe, was it in March, it was in, no, there's January 20th, actually. There was understanding financial statements.
That's in Grand Rapids, that's in Grand Rapids. So
So, I
is
mean,
that down and back in one day or not?
It doesn't give the timeframe.
They go like
so I
9 to
don't
5
know.
usually, is those the skill path training ones?
For,
This is understanding financial statements on the 20th.
Okay, one-day trips.
And then the other one is February 11th, organizing accounts payable. I mean, these are all things that we use every day in our office. I mean,
Well, Joe, you could go to a understanding financial workshop if you felt inclined.
I could, if I thought I. Yep. But I go back to, I'm gonna use the fact of the MML, that's why we hired you guys to do the job. We're here to legislate and make sure that they know what they're doing.
I thought she was hired with that knowledge.
This, again, this is continuing education and training, it's not school or college. I leave it up board, I just bring it to you guys, I think it's a good thing, I'd like to see her go and do it.
One day, if she goes Grand Traverse City, it's fine. Several,
She needs to go to Grand Rapids overnight, I'm saying, let's leave that open, not say no tonight, but
That's
see
right.
what it is and what else is going on.
So, well, we would have to say, then the one on the 20th year of January, you're gonna say no, because we're not meeting again before then.
But we don't have any times or anything on it, so.
Well, they're generally like 9 to 5, 9 to 4, something like that. So she'd have to leave like at 6 in the morning or something like that.
4 hour drive.
Is this a council decision or is this a president and Rachel decision?
Good question. What do you guys think?
I'd say council decision myself, but
It is.
I mean,
I would say it's council.
Yeah, it'd have to be.
Do you want to put it into a motion that she's allowed to do this?
I make a motion that we send Rachel for the training on 1/20 of 15 to Grand Rapids, understanding financial statements, and that we allow her to go to the Beyond the Basics in Traverse City and communication skills for women. I will leave the criticism and discipline skills for managers and supervisors off until we come to a conclusion on the administrative position.
You put the day trip along with the weekend, or with the 2-day trip.
Well, we don't know if the Grand Rapids is if she's gonna go have to spend the night or if she can just drive down early in the morning and come home.
No, don't know it. Yeah.
That's right, so I wouldn't feel comfortable voting on that until I knew.
If you take that one off, I'd be more both on the one day.
That's true.
Traverse City.
We won't be able to attend 211 one anyway because of a meeting that night, correct? So you'll be here for that anyway, so.
Accounts payable.
So it'd be one out-of-town meeting.
So you have on the table currently the 120 meeting, how to read and understand financial statements, correct?
Yep.
I'll second that motion.
Well, he's
And-
got the other ones too.
That one and Beyond the Basics in Traverse City, which we've all already said it was a day thing, no
That's a
big
day
deal.
No big
And the
deal, I know.
communication skills for women, again, Traverse City day trip. So the only one that would be out of town is the one on the 20th to Grand Rapids.
Financial statements.
Yes.
Rachel, do you want to go to that?
something I think would be helpful.
Family obligations allow you to do that? We got a motion on the floor with the support to allow Rachel to go to Grand Rapids on the 20th of January and to Traverse City, I don't know what the date was.
January 29th.
29.
And then February, or March 9th would be the other, actually the March 9th.
But we only have, the motion only is for the Grand Rapids.
Yeah, because we agreed the other ones don't.
The 20th.
Yeah,
Then
just
we
the
have to
20th.
make a motion that says, yeah, we agree she can do day trips, yes, but then we don't make a motion. How do we differentiate between day trips or overnight trips? because we all just said, yeah, she can go on day trips, but then now we gotta make a motion that says she can go on overnight trips?
These overnight trips, maybe if we look at it as that could cost us money, and so
Right.
if we're spending money, we make a motion to spend that money for her to do it. The day trips don't cost us any more money. Is that a way to look at it then? To explain why we're making a motion for,
That's very little to pay for somebody to really understand financials who works with it every day.
I think
A
there's
$60 hotel bill is nothing compared to what she could miss or misunderstand about a financial or categorize it wrong that could cause you guys problems. So,
We have a motion on the floor for just 2 meetings, as I understood.
That's, no,
The 20th and the 29th.
that's what I think.
So,
well, I did with the 3, 9, and 15 too, but again, that was the Traverse City, so it was one. So it was 3 total.
the motion was for 2, and the support was for 2.
Okay, that's fine.
Any further discussion?
Which two?
129 in 2015 and 120 in 2015.
One in Travers, one in Grand Rapids.
Right.
I'm a crisis negotiator.
Call the motion to order, call here. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's carried. Okay. Action items. Maggie Mall resigned from the planning commission. We received a letter. We need a motion to accept that.
We'll make the motion.
Or,
Been moved and supported to accept the resignation of Maggie Malls from the planning commission. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion has carried. Tell her thank you for her service.
Okay, absolutely.
I'm going to jump down to Vicki Hardy. We received an email today saying for family reasons she needs to resign from the planning commission. I need a motion to accept her resignation.
I'll make that motion to accept Vicky Doobie's resignation from the planning commission.
Moved and supported.
Was that
Further
Rod?
discussion? Rod? Rod? Any further discussion? All those in favor of the motion say aye. Opposed? Motion has carried. Resolution number 10. I'll make that motion. Number 10 is primarily is for the meeting schedule for the next year, which is the last page. Council will meet on January 8th, which is tonight, February 11th, March 11th, April 8th, May 13th, June 10th, July 8th, August 12th, September 9th, October 14th, November 11th, and December 9th.
All the typos have been corrected. There's only one thing that I'd like to add to this, and it's at 1.2 or at the next to last sentence. Talking about taking bids, I'd like it to read 3 competitive written bids. So that if we go to a doctor or a file, we say that, okay, there's a bid for an A, B, and C.
And I think I would disagree with that, knowing that a lot of times you go for bids and people just don't submit them. And so, as Larry and I were sitting here, the 18th, looking, going through some of the budget stuff and all, and Sam come in and he's been trying to get a third bid on plugging the 2A well for 4 months or 5 months, and nobody will submit that third one, that third bid to him. He can't get it. So while you put things out for bids, a lot of times people don't get back to it.
Quite a lot of things that we do deal with are pretty unique.
To the,
And a lot of times there's only one supplier.
Tennis court resurfacing.
You know.
There you go.
It's very hard to get
Aye.
3 bids on.
Well, but the tennis court resurfacing, that's a written bid. We have a nice written bid here. I have a history.
Oh, I'm not saying I
I
get 2
know
other
that-
bids.
I mean, we need to, maybe we should say, try to get a written bid or something that, you know, I mean, if we just don't put anything in there, we'll have nothing. You know, I would like to be able to look and say, oh, we have one bid, or two, or,
We have that.
I don't wanna know, oh, well, I just called somebody, it didn't work out,
But that's what you get a lot of times. That's.
well, then maybe there should be a form that says I called Jack and he can't do it, and here's the reason
I
why.
can find a way to myself.
We have to advertise in the paper.
And it does say here that we accomplished by taking of not less than 3 competitive bids.
I think that's a standard that we try to meet, but obviously we have to adjust because of the local market. So I don't have, we can put 3 written bids in there, but if you can't get 3 written bids, then we've got to proceed accordingly. So I don't have a problem with putting written bids in as long as we understand.
I just
We
hate
may
to hung
not-
up on something and sitting there waiting to do a big project because we can't get a 3rd bid.
Well, maybe it's a procedural thing, so I don't know, but some way to make sure that this,
Decide to get competitive bids.
right,
The more the better.
right, I agree.
So I don't have a problem with adding the written into it. I think we all understand the local market might change that.
I don't leave it as is.
No change, so I need a motion to accept resolution number 10 of 2014-15.
I'll make that motion.
Support.
Moved by Clark, supported by Adley. Any further discussion? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion is carried. Resolution number 11 is transfer into the EDA budget $1,800, which will cover a bill that we got from Chris Corbett for half of the ice rink. He has donated the other half of it. The DDA is paying for our half of it. Need a motion to accept this resolution.
I got a question on it though.
Okay.
$1,800, I thought the cost of the skating rink for us was $5,500.
It was.
So
But there's money in the account already that's been authorized.
They need to transfer that much.
Oh,
We have
Rachel,
to
it was
transfer
already
this much more into that account in order to cover the check to him of $5,000.
You're right.
I guess I thought, and correct me if I'm wrong here, but I thought that they had spent less than $3,000 of the $8,000 they were approved to do, so that we shouldn't be transferring any more in.
Already in this line item, and if we add $1,800 more, it'll make it then.
So we're not adding more to the 8,000, we're just moving it within that 8,000 still. Okay, that was my question, I'm sorry, I misunderstood. Okay. Then I make a motion to accept resolution number 11 of 2014-15 as presented.
Support.
Support from Zelenak. Any further discussion? All in favor of the motion, since we're spending? No, we're not spending.
We're not spending it.
All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion's carried.
Now, Chris, want to skate on that rink tomorrow? Take the no trespassing sign down.
Jack built a sign, that's what.
Thank you,
The
Chris.
one that says no trespassing.
It says no children, no adults, no.
No shoes, no shirt, no service, right?
No ice skating between Monday and Sunday. Ice skating between 9 and 9:15 on the first Thursday of every month of
We
June.
got the hot dog one car, we're gonna run around it.
Okay, the last item on the agenda is the budget. And I thank the finance committee for doing what they have done in reviewing it. I have a couple of changes. Let's see, find it. The 101 account, line 50, sidewalk new construction. In my conversation with Sam, he thought that 8,000 in that instead of 14,000 would be adequate to do the 300 to 500 feet of sidewalk work.
Larry, what number did you say? I'm sorry.
101, 446 is on the back side of page
Right
2.
there, sidewalk
101,
equipment.
440, okay, see it, yep, got it.
8150. Sidewalk new construction, just change that from 14 to 8,000.
Does that change, was that the 14 you mentioned, Rob?
Yeah, I came up with my numbers at $8,330. That's to do 500 feet of sidewalk. So just,
My question that I would have on this though is, we're budgeting money that we don't have a plan for sidewalks yet. And that would be my only question. I mean, it's normally just in the budgeting process, you have a plan where you're gonna spend it, what sidewalks you're gonna do. And that would be my only question, where or how or which ones are we gonna, is this more to maintain the ones that are downtown now? I mean, them are the questions I have on it.
Sidewalk new construction, I guess
That's
is
how much we're gonna spend
on new construction.
But where?
Where is?
Well,
That's
up to be. Because I
Is it new construction or is it replacing ones that we put in
well,
or took out?
whatever, I think whatever the committee decides to bring back is most important.
Well, and the only reason I ask is, I mean, because when you're looking at the larger picture and you're looking at priority-based budgeting, you want to look at, I'm all for putting sidewalks in, the money's there, I showed the money's there, we've been able to show the money is there, and I support doing that, don't get me wrong. But where's our priority? If we move forward with this grant, we've got $30-some thousand worth of DPW work to do down there. So now, is it a priority to put in $8,000 for the sidewalk somewhere? Or have them down in the park working for us? So when you're looking at priority-based budgeting, I'm just looking, what's the plan for it, or do we even have it? I'm all for doing it, I'm not saying we're not. Where, how, or do we even say, we're gonna hire it out and only do 400 foot this year because we're gonna have a higher expense into the labor director?
All we're trying to decide now is that we're gonna spend that much money on it.
yeah, and if we can't do it because of other things going on, then we can't do it. Well, if the money's not there, then obviously we can't. If the money's there, we can.
If the money's in fund balance, it's still there, it's just you're not budgeting for something that you don't have a plan to do. It's still there, it's not going anywhere. You know what I'm saying? So I
But
just.
the whole
ask these
budget,
questions.
but the whole budget
Could be that way.
that way. I mean,
That money's
that's the way I
out
look at it.
there in that one street.
It's like in the DD 20 grand.
Things come up, you know, water lines break all over town. Yeah, we may not put in any sidewalk.
Maybe replacing a lot of them.
And that's true too, so.
So now, when you do that 8,000 there, that's gonna obviously change the, bottom line of that account. And that's so, we did have a revenue over expenditure of 39,200, 39,219.25 in the red.
Mine says 36.
36, so 19.
Mine says 36,
You guys-
19,
you guys got a different one.
36.
You guys got a different one than I do. How do you,
it would just be 42,719.25.
might be a different one.
No, it'd be less. Wouldn't it? It'd be 30,000. 30,000.
Minus
They're pulling 6,000 off.
20 something, there, minus
Yeah.
36.
At the end of 101.
Oh, I see, okay, I added, that's what you're
28,000.
saying, okay. You're gonna
It'd be
subtract that.
28,000.
Right. $154. Or $254, I'm sorry.
256.
Oh, okay, you changed the state shared revenues back up to the 83, okay, that's what the difference is then. Okay. Yeah. Okay, that's fine. You'll print me off anyway. Okay. Thank you for,
Are we going to have the trash pickup this year or not? We've had so many people complain that we didn't have it last year. Where would it come up? Yeah, Village Clinic, where would that come up?
I don't know, I think we're doing pretty good at cleaning things up with our ordinances.
Pretty good. Made a world of difference.
Right at the moment. Again, I'm not against the village cleanup, but
I still think we're gonna work.
I'd love to see the township get involved.